When Jeep first announced that they'd be building a compact city car, which was fully electric, Jeep owners all around the world had reservations as to whether, well, would that work?
Absolutely not.
It's so far from the Jeep brand that we know, with their rugged, aggressive off-roaders and huge road presence. But all of that is very American.
America first!
The Jeep Avenger is anything but. It's built in Europe for Europe. However, it's so important that they've kept those key values which make Jeeps, well, Jeep. So in today's video, I'm going to find out, is the Jeep Avenger worthy of the Jeep name? So if that sounds good, then please keep watching. And if you do like electric car reviews and news, well, this is the place to be. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button and join the Electroheads family.
The Avenger isn't attempting to be a budget option like the MG ZS EV, but it's still sensibly priced at just under £36,000. It undercuts the closely related Peugeot E2008 and the Kia Niro EV. The Avenger is a compact car, one of the smallest in its class in fact. At 4,084mm long, it's 126mm shorter than a Nissan Juke, despite sharing the car's basic platform. Officially, the Jeep Avenger can travel almost 250 miles between charges, and you can top up its battery from 10 to 80% in as little as 25 minutes, which is about average by class standards.
Okay, so none of that sounds very Jeep. It sounds very Stellantis, but not very Jeep. So what have the brand done to make sure that the heritage is not lost in this all-new SUV? Well, they've actually done quite a lot. And when you start looking closely, it's far more than I ever imagined. You see, if you chat to any Jeep owner, they'll know all of the Easter eggs which are hidden around their cars. And this is no exception. Around the Jeep Avenger, you will find a ton of very, very cool Easter eggs, which make it feel so personal and so special. Let me show you a few of them. Let's start with the ones that you can find on other Jeep products, and that includes the little Jeep Willy grille on the wheels. You can also find a little Jeep grille just there on the dashboard as well, and you can find another Jeep grille here, just at the bottom of the grille, finished in chrome. This harks back to the heritage of the Jeep brand and the iconic Jeep Willys. On the top rear left-hand side, you'll find a little ladybird. Underneath the rear spoiler, you can find the Jeep Avenger grille. This isn't my favourite one, but it's got to be a close second. And that's right here, you'll find the coordinates for Turin. But why Turin? Because that is where the Jeep Avenger was designed. Following on from that, you can also find the mountain range, which can be seen from Turin. Once again, in the rear lights, you'll find a little Jeep Willy grille, but also this rear light design is in a cross shape, and this is reminiscent of the fuel cans that the Jeeps used to carry in the Second World War. But that's not all. Inside the boot, you'll find even more. Right here on the inside of the boot, you'll find a sketch of the evolution of the Jeep brand. Finally, on to my favourite one, and it's quite a personal one. In the bottom right-hand side of the front screen, you'll see a little figure of a boy with a telescope. This is actually the designer's son. But if you look in the top left hand of the screen, you'll see a little constellation of stars that he's looking at. So now that vast list of Easter eggs is done, let's take it for a drive. It's actually so nice to drive a Stellantis product and see over 200 miles of range on the dashboard. The Jeep Avenger gets 249 miles of claimed WLTP range. It gets things like a heat pump as standard, and it's able to achieve this larger range by using the next generation battery. So this is the battery that we're now seeing fitted to things like the Vauxhall Astra, and is slightly bigger than in previous generations of Peugeot E2008, Vauxhall Mocha, and also the Citroën EC4. Most of those cars are now being upgraded to have this larger battery, but it's great that the Avenger gets it from the off. And looking at the figures that I've been achieving whilst driving, it seems to be pretty realistic. In fact, Jeep give this outrageous silly figure of over 300 miles if you're driving it extremely economically. I think this is a bit of a stretch, but it seems that 240 miles should be easily achievable. What is brilliant about the Jeep Avenger is it doesn't drive like a Jeep. That might seem like a negative, but not when it comes to Jeep products. If you've ever driven a Jeep Wrangler or even a Jeep Renegade, you'll know that they're very cumbersome, they're not particularly comfortable, and they've got very, very poor handling. This car, however, is a breath of fresh air. It drives fantastically. It's smooth and quiet, although we would hope it would be quiet being an EV. But what I mean is the road noise is kept to a minimum. It feels very well secluded in this cabin. And the power delivery is also great. It's not too jerky, it doesn't have those sudden movements when you pull off. There's a few different driving modes, including an economy mode and also a sport mode. Pop it in economy and you won't get quite so much throttle input, meaning you drive a bit more economically. And then vice versa, if you go for the sport mode, that will sharpen the throttle and it will make the steering a little bit heavier. Not really suited to this type of car. After all, it's not all about speed in the Avenger. It is more just about comfort really, and being very good around town, which is something it excels at. If you do go for those sport modes, you do get slightly sharper steering, but once again, it's not the sharpest, and if you want to go for a performance EV, then probably you're not even looking at the Jeep Avenger. And being a Jeep product, there's probably a question on most people's lips. Well, how good is the Avenger off-road? And the answer is quite simple. Not very. Yeah, it's not really designed to be good off-road. They're not claiming that this is an electric off-roader. There are more cars in the works. So, Jeep plan to have 3 more models released before 2025, which will be fully electric, and those will include some more rugged electric off-roaders. For the time being, however, the Jeep Avenger is very much just a family SUV. And though it can get you out of sticky situations by having some drive modes, sand, mud and snow, which will help with your traction and it'll just get you out of some sticky situations, you're not exactly going to be able to be crawling over rocks like you could in the Wrangler.
The 355-litre boot is a fair bit smaller than those of the Kia Niro EV or MG ZS EVs, although it's still plenty big enough for a weekend away. The broad, square opening makes it easy to load chunkier items. Passenger space in the back, however, is disappointing. Legroom is very tight behind the seats, and it's hampered further by a questionably large hump in the middle of the floor. At least the headroom is decent.
So boot space can't quite live up to a lot of its rivals, but where it does excel is on storage space on the interior of the car. Most small SUVs get around 15 litres of space. Usually there's a bit of space under the armrest and you'll have a decent sized glove box. But on the Avenger, you'll actually find 34 litres of storage, which is massive. So where can you find all of this storage? Well, there's some nice deep door cards which will fit plenty of items in, and then you have this section along the dashboard where you can store items, and because of the plastic insert, things don't slide around.
That's brilliant.
And it has that robustness of Jeeps because you could simply just hose this down if it gets dirty. You've also got this flip up centre storage section where you'll find loads of storage space, and you also have some wireless charging there on this top spec model. Armrest storage is pretty small, but you do have a second storage which is absolutely massive, and you've got some removable sections so that you can make it customizable. You can put drinks in there if you'd like to. You also have a glove box, but once again this isn't enormous, and in classic Stellantis fashion It's half the size of its European counterparts. So in response to that question, does the Avenger feel like a proper Jeep? Well, on paper, not really. But if you speak to anybody that's ever driven a Jeep Wrangler, they may absolutely love it, but they'll tell you that it's so compromised. It's way too large for our UK roads, it goes through loads of fuel with really low fuel economy, and it's also, well, not really designed for regular roads. It's an off-roader through and through, not to mention the terrible handling. So did we really want to build a compact SUV which follows in that DNA? Did we really want to build a car which was bad to drive, good off-road, but terrible if you wanted to take it on the everyday commute? No.
Ouch.
So I'm really pleased that Jeep left it to the Europeans to build the Jeep Avenger, because this car is compact in size, so it's great around the cities, it's really good to drive, and it's also just a really great all-round electric package. Sure, it doesn't have the fastest charging speed, and it also doesn't have the most affordable price tag, but when you compare it to its rivals, it's very well placed in the market. And I think those personal little touches of all of those little Jeep Easter eggs which are hidden all around the car make it really appealing. What do you think of the Jeep Avenger? Was this a great first electric car to launch with, or do you think they should have just chucked a massive battery in the Jeep Wrangler and made this crazy off-roader which was vastly impractical? Yeah, you can see where I'm leaning, can't you? I really like this car. This was a surprise to me. I didn't think I would, but this has easily become my favourite electric Stellantis product. But let me know, do you like the Jeep Avenger, or is there something else on the market that you'd go for? Let me know in the comments down below. I really hope you've enjoyed the video today, guys. If you have, as ever, please go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. Until next time, see you later.